The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome to Old Space Show. My name is Brandon. And this guy over here riding shotgun with me, his name is Tony.
Howdy, howdy. Excited to be back for another ride along.
Oh, yeah. This series of Old Space Show will follow the exploits of a man and his car. The first season of Knight Rider. Today,
Yes.
we are here to discuss the 13th episode, Forget Me Not.
That's right. Let's talk about it here. Michael Knight is staying at a beach house with the daughter of the newly elected president of the South American country of San Marara. His assignment is to protect both her and her father. A young woman named Mickey overhears the conspirators' plot to assassinate El Presidente and is thrown off a cliff. What are you going to do? Michael manages to rescue Mickey, though she ends up with temporary amnesia.
All right. This one's directed by Gil Bettman. And this is the episode of Knight Rider that apparently was the most important one and took everybody in the building to crack, because it is written by Richard Christian Matheson, Tim Zalzi, Karen Harris, Deborah Dean Davis, on a story by Chris Lucky, Richard Matheson, and Tom Zalzi.
Listen, we were talking about this
That's
earlier,
a lot
few
of
minutes
people.
ago. Yeah, I mean, this is a heavy story. They pack a bunch into this 48 minutes or so. I mean, there's no down moments here for sure.
Right. The stars: David Hasselhoff, Edward Mulhare, Patricia McPherson, William Daniels, Alejandro Rey, Judy Landers, Maria Conchita Alonso as Maria Conchito here, Reed Shelton, Victor Milan, Mike Lane, and Fred Lerner. Maria Conchita Alonso, if you've seen like Running Man, lots of cool stuff from the 80s, 90s, she is as guest of the show Mike Vanderbilt would say, Stone Cold Fox, but she's got a pretty cool resume to her and was sort of a person that got used quite a bit back in the day, and this I'd say is probably one of her earliest appearances. But yeah, nice to see a friendly face here. And of course, she's Michael's Girl of the Week, already in progress.
It feels like this episode again. They're trying new things. They're trying different things here in the middle of the season. So they're like, what if we just joined, instead of having like the standard, let's get it all explained while Kit's in the roving garage and Devin has to tell you everything to set the stage. They're like, let's just jump in like mid assignment, essentially, where Michael's shacking up with this gal and doing they're already mid recon. This episode, you feel like watching it, especially early on, you're like, maybe this is where they got the this is like the backdoor pilot of Baywatch for Hasselhoff. There's so much time on the beach in the bikinis,
right,
and you're like, okay, this is his natural environment, so let's roll with it. So probably not, but it's nice to think about.
Right, and you get a lot of Michael in tux in this because he's supposed to be dressed really nice for all of this.
Nice.
And there's this like party in the opening that sets this up, and Hasselhoff again towers over the rest of the cast here. He looks like 10 foot tall when he's around. Anyway, granted, you have like little Maria Conchita Alonso and you have Judy Landers, and they are not the tallest people in the world, but all the men are super short too. Like, he is just a beast.
He is. He should. No one. He shouldn't be afraid of anybody. He goes in, and as he starts poking around the mansion, right? There's one guy who's like, "Bathroom's not this way, pal," and he's like, "Oh, so sorry," and he, meanders away. I'm like, you could literally just put your palm on that guy's face and throw him to the ground and keep going, and it would be fine,
right?
But homie don't play that. So
no, he does not. He also doesn't valet park either.
That's right.
And it causes some mayhem with the valet guys getting pissed, and they like they park Kit in, like but they touch bumpers. I'm like, dudes,
Yeah,
like
would not fly in the modern valet world, obviously, but this is one of those
at least be
chintzy
discreet.
little. Yeah, no, they weren't even trying. One of those. Well, so what I thought was going to happen when they first started that, I thought they were intentionally like, I'm gonna ding his bumper, and then I thought they'd get out and be like, it didn't leave a scratch, like like
Right.
this car is indestructible, but no, they obviously set it up later for when Kit has to come and inevitably rescue Michael. He just grinds his gears and pushes those cars out of the way, and the valets are left agape, open mouthed. What? Where once again we have lost all sense of subtlety in how we're talking about exposing the world to a self-driving car
Right.
30 years ago. So what are you gonna do?
True. But yeah, so this party has some peeps. Michael runs into one of them goofily, and she winds up she's taking a nap upstairs at the party or something.
It was a strange. Yeah, there's a throwaway line when they're talking about how she's like, I was gonna cut myself off from champagne, but then you brought me another one. It was so nice, and I just had it. So I'm like, are they insinuating that she went upstairs and blacked out?
Right.
Like she ends up under a pile of coats. Yeah.
Was there a roofie or something in her first champagne? Like what?
She's
Michael?
just drunk, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So she's a tiny gal, so I imagine it doesn't take much to probably didn't have the best tolerance. And she goes to these posh parties, and and then while she's under covers in bed, overhears an assassination plot in a bedroom, and these guys knock her out, take her, and then this Michael catches it. There's this car chase that ensues where Michael's he's chasing them and playing RC Pro-Am at the same time.
Yeah, so it's funny, because they put so Kit's like, I'm tracking them, and then of course it comes on the chintziest. It is actually a shot from a video game, from Rally Speedway,
Oh,
from an
wow.
Atari video game. Yes, it is an actual, because and then of course Mickey wakes up and she starts causing havoc, and the car starts swerving, and then you see on his video screen the little 8-bit car goes beep boop beep boop, and it kind of shunts itself across the road. I'm like, oh, this is turbo-tastic. This is it's a lot.
Oh man, it's so funny. And then she winds up jumping out of the car, and it's horrific. And she goes down the hill. I'm like,
yeah,
whoa.
It's serious business. Yeah, I mean, it's and of course this being network TV. Of course, when Michael goes down after her using Kit's winch and rappelling gear that is conveniently located inside the car, he gets to her halfway down this massive cliff, and not a scratch on her. Of course,
Oh,
she's
she's
just
got a little bit.
but,
She got a little bit of red. By
yeah,
her
I guess
eye.
that's a good point. Yeah,
that's it.
The teeniest bit of blood. The teeniest bit.
It's not about what physically harmed her; it's what mentally harmed her, because she's got amnesia.
That's right. She can't remember everything.
Yes. And Devin shows up, and we're like, we gotta figure this out. What happened to this woman? But she eventually, the thing is, she figures out who she is because she is left alone, and on TV is a soap opera or something that she's starring in, and she sees herself.
Yeah,
I'm an actress.
Yes, she's trying to remember. Bits are coming back to her slowly but surely, and then she remembers, I'm engaged to Joe Saunders, or some random name. And so she's on the phone. She's in the phone book going line by line. It's a relatively common name. So she's like, I tried them all, none of them recognize me. And then she happens to hear herself on TV as an actress saying, I'm going to be Mrs. Joe Saunders or whatever. And she's like, oh, that's it. Duh, I'm an actress.
And the one of the 8 writers that wrote this went,
nailed it.
I wonder if this is cobbled together from 3 different scripts that weren't working, and they're like, you guys get in a room and figure this out. Or one person was like, hey, take these and do something with it, because we have to pay these people.
It's very possible, because we have essentially 2 kind of concurrent plot lines running with this would-be assassination attempt, and then Mickey obviously overheard it, but then she's got her own deal where they keep trying to find her and put her out of her misery, and then the assassination is this whole other thing, because some of the bad guys drop a bag with a gun in the in the dumpster outside of the equestrian show, and then the bad guy grabs it, and they're doing this very like classic assassination thing where you open the bag and you take 20 minutes to put the gun together, and that gives Michael and Kit time to get across town, because they literally say when they're in the car and they finally figure out the assassination attempt is happening at the equestrian show, courtesy of Mickey's memory slowly coming back, and she's like, I remember them saying something about a pedestrian show, somebody's walking somewhere, and Michael's like, an equestrian show, you mean? And then Kit's like, it's 20 minutes away, Michael, and literally or it's 20 miles away, and literally 4 minutes later they're there. I'm like, how fast are you going through town? I don't believe it. But yeah, it was a really a very interesting episode, full of just, I mean, it was action packed from start to finish, but it was full of like, it did feel like it almost was two different stories that were hemmed together there.
Yeah, no, and it moves, and it's entertaining episode, like, and but Maria Conchita Alonso had swimwear regularly in it, and that feels like its own episode as well, where Michael, like, being hired to be with or like work under some sort of guy for protection or something, and falling in love with his daughter or something like that. That feels like that could have been its own episode too, its own assassination plot episode, because I imagine as Knight Rider goes through more seasons, this won't be the only assassination plot or person targeted type plot.
Oh, absolutely
that would
not.
go
So
on.
yeah, no, it's I mean, it was, it was very busy, and then of course the story has to fit, what the plot that was written has to fit the action that they're trying to provoke on screen, right? So then the El Presidente decides to come into town a day early so he can see this equestrian show, because he loves horses, and apparently this the only place in the world you can watch horses, apparently. And then of course you get there and it looks like literally looks like the most mundane pedestrian or equestrian show of all time. And then of course the bad guy is there. He's in a trailer, slowly putting his sniper rifle together. And so of course Kit's tooling it through town. And he shows up and goes blasting over a wall, as Kit is wont to do. And this is one of the times, I tell you what, they must have sacrificed for all the writing and action. They must have sacrificed some editing, because when Kit comes blasting into the equestrian show, he hits the ground hard, and you can see that body shift, and you're like, ooh, that Trans Am is done. Like that one is not surviving this stunt. It was a rough landing, and they showed it. It was real rough. This whole episode had really strange, like, so there was a part earlier in the episode where Michael was rappelling back down. He goes back to the cliff to get Mickey's purse, which she left after she tumbled, to try to remember or jog her memory. So Kit, goes to the edge of the cliff again, and Michael goes rappelling down. And then, of course, at the exact same time, conveniently, the bad guys are driving up on a boat at the bottom of the cliff. So they kind of meet down there. And they're like, oh, stick them up type of vibe. And Michael's like, Kit, I need some help. And Kit's like, oh, okay. So he backs up and he literally jumps the cliff. And that, like, I don't know if you remember this part, but when they showed the car jumping off the cliff, I mean, that it's stock footage. It's from another movie. It 100. It's like a white car. It was like the most non-Kit car that you've ever, like, it was a vehicle in name only.
Yeah, it was some huge stunt that they were not about to do here to get that shot on Knight Rider. So, like, just see if they don't know. Just see if they won't see it.
It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
And I remember I was like, there was time too. I forget if it's the first time or second time, but there, like, Michael's going down and like Kit's like smoking, trying to like hold on to him. Like, how heavy is Michael?
Yeah. There was a very thin throwaway line where Kit's like, Michael, my winch is overheating, and I'm like, whatever. Like, you just have to create more drama here. This is what 8 writers get me. The winch is overheating. This is the best we can do.
Yeah, like it's just wild, because like I'm like you're supposed to be this like big tough car that people have tried to bust into. Like, you've got to be heavy as hell. You could just hop a squat there and nothing. Like, Michael, you could probably have another car there and not flinch. Like,
Yes, your destructible alloy alone should be relatively
Mhm.
heavy at this time. But it all came together for a fun episode. There was a thrilling conclusion that once Michael got to the equestrian show, Michael and Kit got there
Mhm.
with, of course, with Mickey in the car. They found the assassin right away, and of course he tries to escape them by jumping on a horse. And not
Mhm.
only is that ridiculous enough in its own right, the horse first runs the obstacle course, so he's jumping over the poles, and then of course Kit gets to
Right.
jump the poles, and this is a part where you get to see his Kit smarter than a horse, and Kit gets splashed through the water,
Horsepower.
and
Horsepower.
right.
Yep.
And then I do give him credit for this, because then the chase ends up where the bad guy is riding the horse through stables, and
Mhm.
like through the interior stables, through the exterior, where there are multiple other horses, and the stunt drivers are just blasting Kit right through these horses. I'm like, this had to have been either well choreographed, or they
Yeah.
got super lucky that the Humane Society wasn't on set that day, because I mean he's blasting through these horses, like driving right by them. I'm surprised we don't see any horses get spooked on screen, because they were not
So
calling it, they were not phoning it in.
So that wouldn't have been a problem in 1982. It wouldn't have been a
Yeah.
problem.
Okay.
It was the very next year. The
Ah.
James the not James Bond film starring Sean Connery, Never Say Never Again, had horses go off a cliff, and
Ah.
that was the last straw. And then PETA and stuff became very involved in the film industry, and stuff like that would be very monitored and not happen anymore. So
I
um,
gotcha.
that's they probably got lucky.
Okay.
So,
It must have
um,
been a timing thing then, because yeah, I mean this it looked dangerous as hell for
mhm,
the horses, to be honest. So
yeah, yeah.
um
So that kind of monitoring that probably would have been like a nope, no, you're not doing it. But like 1982 cutoff point here, they're probably just like, all right, get some horses, let's do this. So yeah, that's what happened. But yeah,
yeah.
that's what
But
does.
I mean, overall, I mean, it was a great episode. It was very
Mhm.
thrilling. Of course, it ends in a classic Michael style. He shows back
To-
up at the beach house, right? He wants to bring flowers, so he can get back to wooing, his pseudo living girlfriend. And Kit's like, "Oh, you didn't bring enough flowers. I see that there's already somebody here." So he goes and gets another bouquet because Mickey's there. And
yep.
as he closes the door, he gives both of them, like, weirdly again, gives both of them a kiss, and he's like, "You guys want to cruise the burger joints?" I'm like, ew. But whatever. So
And going through it, like I noticed, like it's weird. I like kudos to Maria Conchita Alonso, because in this episode she's in like regular clothes for maybe two scenes, and she's in a lot
you're
of
right.
scenes, and most of them are like swimwear, a towel, like
Yep.
night lounge comfy wear, like
Yeah.
that, like it, because there's a lot of scenes that take place like oddly in her like living room or bedroom
Yes.
area, like right there, and then she's like always like it's crazy. She doesn't wear much in this episode, but
Yeah. This episode was very easy on the eyes, obviously, but
yeah.
I think that's what they were going for. This was
And
this was a weird mix of like
mhm.
the beautiful people and the impressive action and everything. This was a record. This episode was a record setter in the United Kingdom. This is the most watched hour of TV,
Oh
almost
wow.
13 million viewers of the entire year of 1983. This was
Wow.
the most watched hour of TV in the UK, this particular episode. So whatever they were going for, they must have done it right enough.
Well, the Five Doctors probably hadn't aired yet, so there's that.
There you go.
No, and on the other side, I think you get Hasselhoff and Tux wear, and he always looks good in a pair of jeans, so
There you
he's
go.
got that going for him. And he's just a giant. Like I've never. It's weird. No wonder, like it's weird, like because it's what Knight Rider and Baywatch, and that's all we have of Hasselhoff. Like there's not like a lot of others. Granted, his how he handles with like his business or like his outside life or whatever, but like this guy was a major star, and like he just goes from Baywatch, the most watched show in the world on the planet, to just there's nothing really after that.
Yeah,
And I have to wonder if some of it is because he's so tall and it makes it hard to film with people that are that
it
tall.
could be.
It is a discouraging thing to be tall in Los Angeles and do movies. Like short, you're fine. because you can always step up on an apple box. Tall,
Yeah.
we have to bring those in to shoot with you every week or on this every shoot of the movie. So it's kind of
You're right. Yeah.
yeah.
It
So
could,
I
yeah.
kind
Could
of
be a
wonder.
combination of that, and I think really just the end of his. I mean, obviously, I know like globally, he's a big star. He does music and all sorts of different types, but American audiences know him heavily as this kind of action TV action star, right? You get several years of Knight Rider, you get several years of Baywatch, and then they go almost immediately into Baywatch Nights. If I recall correctly, I think it might have it maybe was just American fatigue at that point. People were maybe just sick of him, give us something new after 15 years, please.
And I think what he brings here to Knight Rider, as I mentioned probably before, feels like ahead of its time. Like I feel like he would fit in perfectly with guys now, like your Chris Pratts, people like that. Like I feel like it's like, oh, that's the ideal guy now. And I think he was like something new and odd and different then. Like, granted, that's not what he brings to Baywatch, but here Knight Rider feels like a template for what would be a popular comedy action star now.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. But okay, Tony, well, let's shift gears and look on toward the sunset. Before we hit the horizon, where can people keep up with you?
Yeah, you can come hang out with me. I'm the senior editor of sciencefiction.com. So you can wander over there if you want to talk about all the best that 2023 has to offer for movies and TV shows and reviews and new stuff and all that good stuff. You want to come find me personally, you can do that on most of the interwebs at Tony Schaab, and I'll happily chat with you about anything at any time.
All right. Hashtag Maria Kit Cheetah Alonso.
Nice. Nailed it.
I thought of that one as we were talking. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at BradPorkUHG, written work on whitesoblue.com. Show is on Monday, and then come back here on Wednesday for Old Space Show for another Knight Rider adventure. It's going to be fun. Awesome. But from Old Space,
Brandon and Tony, not so lone crusaders in a dangerous world. The world of Old Space Show.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.